Welcome along to a brand new series where I compare and contrast two units and we assess their quality and performance and value for money. It is the face-off. And today we are looking at Longbowmen and they're going up against Crossbowmen. You probably have quite a lot of questions like myself. Which unit is the most effective? Is there much of a difference in their effectiveness when firing? Crossbowmen have some armor. Does that make a difference in terms of taking missile fire and in melee? Let's find out. So first thing to say is that there is a price difference, isn't there? Longbowmen of 54, Crossbowmen of 41. That's quite a jump. So Crossbowmen are going to have an advantage there because they're just so much cheaper. So it's really up to the Longbowmen to show that they've got better quality, better firing stats, and that they're worth the extra cost. Let's delve into the numbers. I've done a lot of number crunching just for you. And I also found out quite a lot actually that I didn't know before. So it's all quite interesting. I'm going to try and make these videos around 10 minutes long, short and snappy, full of information. This is it. So firing, I tested them up against defensive spear. Defensive spear protected units. Is there that much difference in terms of casualties that they can cause? So the range at 3 squares when Longbowmen are firing at defensive spear, it is 12 to 40, and when Crossbowmen are firing it's 10 to 32. So 12 to 40, 10 to 32, but in reality, real-time numbers, there was hardly any difference. Both units were getting around 22, 23 casualties. Close up from 1 square, the range is 22 to 68 for Longbowmen and 16 to 50 for Crossbowmen. Again, in my test, there were hardly any differences. They were both getting around 30, 32 casualties from close up. I also tested them out against Billmen. I wanted an armored unit. Do Crossbowmen do better against armor? And I can say that there is absolutely zero difference between these units when firing at armor. So Billmen at 3 squares for both units, 10 to 32 is the range for casualties, and close up 1 square away, 16 to 50 for both units. So at the moment the Crossbowmen are doing pretty well, to be honest. How about on impact and in melee? What about if these defensive spear and Billmen crash into these units? Does the armor make much difference? What did I find? So, firstly, the defensive spear, they have a disadvantage because they are defensive spearmen with no impact. So it was evens for both units on impact, but then in melee for a defensive spear, the Longbowmen are 50 down because even though they're full swordsmen, the spear halves that swordsman advantage, so they go 50 down, and Crossbowmen are 67 because they're not full swordsmen, and then the armor advantage in melee is 8. So overall it goes to 67 down and they're 50 down. Not that much difference, to be fair. They're both bowman units. They're going to suffer that -1 modifier for fighting infantry in the open. But what I did find was Longbowmen do better against units like Billmen that are not spearmen, because it doesn't affect their swordsman advantage quite so much. So they get their swordsman advantage, and they are actually only 35 down because they get the 100 for being swordsman, and the billmen are 110 plus armor at 25. So overall it's 35 down, whereas crossbowmen are 76 down against billmen. So that's more than double. So there's a much bigger difference there against a unit like billmen. 35, not that much. 76, fairly significant. So that's when longbowmen really show their strengths. Taking fire. What about taking fire? Is there much of a difference? Now, this is quite interesting, and I had a long conversation with some experts like Gamerman and Bunny, and I think the developer also, Richard, also made some comments. And in the end, to simplify it all and give you the basic answer, for whatever reason, I don't know how it works in terms of the system and the number crunching, but even though crossbowmen are classed as having some armor and longbowmen are only protected, there is no difference when taking missile fire. Basically, crossbowmen are the same as protected units in taking missile fire for whatever reason. It's something to do with rounding up the numbers, apparently. So for crossbowmen, when they're firing on these units at a range of 3, it's 10 to 32 for both units, and when longbowmen are firing on these units, it's the same, 12 to 40 for both units. So there is no difference when taking missile fire. So there you have it. There you have it. Really, the main function of these units are firing away and depleting the enemy with the missile fire, and overall they both do it up to about the same standard. There's not that much difference. So really, when I did the top 10 worst units, I did include longbowmen, but they actually do a little bit better in terms of their performance when fighting. I didn't realize that they were 100% swordsmen, so they actually are better than most bowman units. So perhaps their price only needs to drop a little bit, maybe around 50. Originally I said about 48, maybe around 50, but even then, even at 50, to be honest with you, crossbowmen just represent better value at 41, because longbowmen are not going to hold for so long against most infantry in the open. So my rating, what's my rating going to be? I'm going to say that performance, probably I'm going to give both units around 8 out of 10. Both of them are pretty decent. I guess one little thing about crossbowmen is often you don't get that many in a lot of these armies. We get quite a few longbowmen, and in other lists we get more. This is the Welsh 1400 AD list, a little bit of a strange list, but you often only get maximum of 2 crossbowmen, unfortunately, for most armies. But I'm going to give both units about 8 for performance, and value I'm going to go maybe 8.5 for crossbowmen, and I'm going to go about 7. I'm going to go about 7 out of 10 for longbowmen. So in the face-off, the crossbowmen come out tops. They're 16.5, and longbowmen are on 15. So yeah, I do overall prefer crossbowmen, I think, as things stand. So there you go. There we go. If I've missed anything out, you want to make some comments, please do. But that is the final result from me. Crossbowmen are one of my favourite bowman units on the battlefield in late Middle Ages.